7:47 a.m. downtown Denver. Saturday morning in late September, when the air is cool but the sun is already promising warmth by noon. Lieutenant Colonel James Patterson walks into a coffee shop on 16th Avenue. The kind of place where locals know the routine, but not each other's names. The bell above the door chimes softly. Nobody looks up from their phones or newspapers. James orders black coffee. No sugar, no cream, just black. The barista doesn't ask questions. She's learned that some people know what they want, and asking them to reconsider is a waste of everyone's time. She pours the coffee with practiced efficiency. James pays cash. Exact change, no tip jar conversation. He's tall, maybe 6 feet, with the kind of posture that announces discipline before his voice ever does. Short military haircut, even though it's been 2 years since he took off the uniform. His shoulders carry the weight of someone used to carrying weight. There's a scar on his left forearm. Pale now. Barely noticeable unless you know what to look for. But you'd see something else if you looked at his eyes long enough. The kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. James takes a small table in the corner back to the wall facing the door. It's a habit. 20 years in the Army teaches you things like that. Awareness, position, always knowing who's coming in. He sips his coffee and looks out the window onto the bustling street below. Nobody in this coffee shop knows that James Patterson is a decorated military officer. Nobody knows he served 3 tours in Iraq and 2 in Afghanistan. Nobody knows he earned a Purple Heart when an IED explosion nearly took his life, sending shrapnel through his left shoulder and ribs, scarring him in ways that showed and in ways that didn't. Nobody knows any of that. And in exactly 1 hour and 16 minutes, that fact would become the most important detail of his day. The fact that he's invisible, that nobody knows. James finishes his coffee slowly. He watches the people passing by outside. Some are rushing late to somewhere. Some are strolling, taking their time, enjoying the morning. Some are on their phones, so consumed by whatever's happening in that little screen that they don't notice the actual world around them. He's learned not to judge. He's also learned that this is how most people live. Not quite present, not quite aware. He puts the empty cup down on the saucer. It's 8:02 a.m. now. He stands, gathers himself, and walks out of the coffee shop back into the Saturday morning. The door chimes again behind him. Still, nobody looks up. 2 miles away on a different street, Officer Derek Paulson sits in his patrol car with his partner, Officer Lisa Martinez. Paulson is 44 years old, with the kind of physique that comes from early morning gym sessions and resentment. His face is lined in a way that suggests he frowns more than he smiles. He's been on the police force for 18 years, and somewhere along the way, the job stopped being about serving people and started being about proving something to them. Paulson's wife left him 6 months ago. She took their 2 kids. She cited emotional distance and anger management issues in the divorce filing. She's fighting him for full custody, and it's not going well for Paulson. The judge saw what his ex-wife saw. A man who needs to control things because he's afraid of losing control of everything else. This morning, Paulson is angrier than usual. Martinez can feel it. She's been his partner for 3 years, and she's learned to recognize the signs. The way his jaw clenches, the way he grips the steering wheel, the way his eyes scan the street like he's hunting for something. "What are we looking for today?" she asks, trying to sound casual. She's 28, sharp, professional, and deeply uncomfortable with Paulson most mornings. Disrespect, Paulson says. It's not really an answer, but it's the only answer he's capable of giving. This city used to have respect. People knew their place. Now they walk around like rules don't apply to them. Martinez says nothing. She's learned that responding to Paulson's rants only encourages longer ones. Instead, she looks out the window and watches downtown Denver wake up. There's a street fair today, banners hanging from light poles. It's crowded, but not chaotic. People shopping, walking, living their Saturday morning. You see that Paulson points at a man walking alone through the plaza. That's the kind of guy. What kind of guy Martinez asks even though she doesn't want to. The kind that thinks he's above the law. Look at him. The way he moves. The way he's not scared of us. Like he doesn't understand that we have authority. Martinez looks at the man. She sees nothing threatening about him. She sees a guy in jeans and a blue shirt, probably 35 or 40, walking through a public plaza on a Saturday morning. She sees nothing that warrants police attention. But she doesn't say that. We should talk to him, Paulson says. It's not a suggestion. It's a decision already made. He pulls the patrol car to the curb right near the plaza and parks it with the kind of finality that suggests this man's morning is about to change, whether he knows it yet or not. James Patterson doesn't notice the patrol car at first. He's in his own head the way he often is on these morning walks. The physical movement helps with the PTSD, helps organize his thoughts, helps settle the anxiety that wakes him up at 3 a.m. most mornings. His therapist suggested the walks. Use the body to help the mind, she said. He's been using his body his whole life. One more thing it can fix. One more way it can be useful. The street fair is bigger than he expected. There are vendor booths set up along the plaza, local artists, small businesses, non-profits trying to raise awareness for whatever cause they're representing. It's colorful and alive and full of the kind of casual human interaction that James finds both comforting and exhausting. He's people-watching the way he always does when he notices the patrol car and the two officers getting out. It's just a moment of awareness. Cop car, officers, standard patrol. Nothing that concerns him. He's not doing anything wrong. He's walking. That's not a crime. But Officer Derek Paulson has already decided that something about this man is wrong. It's the way he stands. The military bearing. The way he doesn't immediately become nervous when police appear. Most people do. Most people feel a little flutter of anxiety when a cop shows up even if they haven't done anything. It's natural. It's built into us. James doesn't flutter. He doesn't look nervous. He just looks aware. And that awareness, that calmness in the presence of authority, registers to Paulson as a threat. Paulson doesn't have the vocabulary for why it bothers him. He just knows it does. It feels like challenge. It feels like disrespect. It feels like this man is saying without words that a police badge doesn't intimidate him. Paulson cannot allow that to stand. He and Martinez walk toward James with purpose. Not emergency response pace, but the kind of pace that says, authority moving through space, moving through a public plaza like they own it, which in some sense they do. Hey, you. Paulson's voice cuts through the ambient noise of the street fair. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. It's the tone of voice that carries the weight of authority. Step over here, now. James turns. He sees two officers approaching. His training takes over immediately. 20 years in the military doesn't leave you after 2 years. It's in your bones. It's in your reflexes. When someone in authority tells you to do something, you comply. You don't argue. You don't escalate. You survive. He walks toward them. His hands are visible loose at his sides, non-threatening posture. He's learned this too. How to present himself to authority in a way that doesn't provoke. What's the problem? Officer James asks. He's calm. His voice is steady. He sounds like someone who hasn't done anything wrong because he hasn't. ID. Now. Paulson doesn't answer the question. He just demands the ID. It's a power move. A way of establishing that he sets the terms of this interaction. James produces his wallet from his back pocket. Slowly. Careful movements. Never make a cop nervous. He hands over his driver's license. Paulson reads it. James Patterson. He looks up from the ID to James's face. What brings you to Denver, Patterson? I live here, officer. I'm just taking a walk. You live here. Paulson's disbelief is written across his face. I know everyone in this neighborhood. I don't know you. I keep to myself, James says. He's not being evasive. It's the truth. He does keep to himself. This is the first extended conversation he's had with anyone but his therapist in several months. Paulson doesn't like this answer. He doesn't like James's calmness. He doesn't like the way James is looking at him. Not challenging, not afraid, just present. Paulson decides in that moment that he's going to find a reason to make this interaction more serious. We've had reports of someone matching your description casing shops in this area, possibly planning a robbery. This is not true. There have been no such reports. Dispatch has not radioed about anyone matching James's description. Martinez, standing nearby, knows this is not true. She heard every radio call this morning. She can confirm. No robbery reports, no casing reports, nothing. But she doesn't say anything. James knows this isn't true either. He's intelligent. He's trained in legal procedure, military protocol, understanding authority structures. He recognizes a fabrication when he hears one. But he also knows something else. He's a minority man in Denver being stopped by a white police officer who has clearly decided to find something wrong. Arguing about the truth isn't going to help him. Fighting isn't going to help him. The best survival strategy is to comply. I haven't been casing anything, officer. I'm just walking through the plaza. That's suspicious, Paulson says. You know what's suspicious. Everything about this. I'm going to need to conduct a pat-down. Spread your legs, hands against that wall. He points to the nearby building, a storefront that's currently closed. James glances around. There are maybe 20 people in the immediate vicinity now. The street fair is active. People are watching. Phones are starting to come out. James walks to the wall. He spreads his legs. He puts his hands against the brick. He's done this before. Training scenarios, protocol exercises. But this feels different. This feels real in a way that training never does. Paulson begins the pat-down. It's thorough. It's also excessive. He checks James's pockets multiple times, making sure everyone watching understands that this man is being treated like a criminal. This is deliberate. Paulson is performing. As his hands move across James's torso, checking for weapons that don't exist, something happens in James's mind. He's in Baghdad. It's 2009. He's in a Humvee moving through a neighborhood scanning for IEDs. His sergeant is talking on the radio. The world is vibrating with the diesel engine, with the weight of body armor, with the knowledge that any moment could be the moment everything changes. Then there's a sound. An explosion. Not near them, but close enough that the Humvee shakes. Close enough that everyone inside knows someone just died. James's breath catches. His eyes close for just a second. The anxiety spikes. Heart rate increases. Pupils dilate. Body goes into combat readiness. Then it's gone. He's back in Denver. There's no explosion. There's no Humvee. There's just a police officer patting him down in a public plaza while his PTSD tries to convince him that danger is real. James controls it, breathing, grounding himself in the present moment. This is what his therapist taught him. Be here now. Your mind is trying to protect you from a threat that doesn't exist. The pat-down continues. Paulson finds nothing because there is nothing to find. James is exactly what he appears to be, an innocent man being harassed in public. 15 minutes pass. Paulson walks around James, still on edge, still performing. He's talking to the crowd about respect, about how this man shouldn't have been in the plaza if he didn't belong there. He's building a narrative that doesn't match reality, but narratives built by people in authority tend to stick. James's legs are starting to ache. His PTSD is trying to surface again. There's a ringing in his ears. Something from his old injury. Something that happens when he's stressed. He controls it, breathes through it. Martinez approaches Paulson. She keeps her voice low. Derek, it's been 15 minutes. Nothing's come through on dispatch. Legally, we either need to charge him or release him. Paulson waves her off. I'll decide when we're done. We're done, Martinez says, and for the first time there's authority in her voice. Let him go or make an arrest. Those are the options. Paulson looks at her like she's betrayed him. Maybe she has. Maybe she's just doing her job. Either way, he knows he's lost this round. He's in a public plaza with 100 witnesses and a partner who's documenting his behavior. He can't escalate further without creating an incident that will make his already bad day worse. You're being detained for investigation, Paulson says, his voice hard. Kneel down, right here. You're being detained, which means you comply with my orders. James hasn't done anything to warrant being told to kneel. It's not a lawful command. It's not necessary for any legitimate police purpose. It's pure domination. It's Paulson asserting power over another human being because he can. James understands this. He also understands that fighting it makes everything worse. If he refuses to kneel, he can be arrested for resisting. If he gets arrested, he'll spend the night in jail. Expensive lawyers will be involved. A criminal record will follow him, all because he refused to kneel. So he kneels. It's a movement that takes maybe 5 seconds, but it feels like slow motion. He lowers himself down onto the cold concrete of the plaza. His knees press against the hard surface. His hands go to his sides. He's now physically lower than the officer, literally beneath him in body position, which is exactly what this was designed to accomplish. The crowd reacts. There are gasps. There are looks exchanged. There's a moment of recognition that something deeply wrong is happening. A man doing nothing illegal has been forced to his knees in public by someone with a badge. This moment is being filmed from multiple angles. This moment is being uploaded to social media in real time. This moment, captured from the perspectives of a dozen different people, is about to change everything. Paulson stands above him, satisfied. He's asserted dominance. He's shown this man and the crowd that authority is absolute. What Paulson doesn't understand, not yet, is that he's just created the moment that will define not just James's story, but the story of what happens when a community decides to stand together. The minutes stretch. 5 minutes becomes 10. 10 becomes 15. James is still on his knees. Paulson is still circling him, still talking about respect and authority, and how things used to be better when people understood their place. The crowd hasn't dispersed. If anything, it's growing. The word has spread through the plaza. There's something happening over here. Something's not right. People are leaving vendor booths, stepping away from conversations drawn to this moment, like people are drawn to anything that violates the normal order of things. There are 50 people now. Maybe more. Maybe 100. It's hard to count because the number keeps shifting as people arrive and others stand at the edges deciding whether to stay. Every phone out is filming. Every angle is being captured. The image is striking. A man in jeans and a blue shirt on his knees on concrete, his hands compliant, his posture submissive, being managed by a police officer who seems to enjoy his temporary power. One woman in the crowd, probably in her 60s, with kind eyes that are currently filled with anger, says loudly, "This is wrong. This is so wrong." What did he even do? Another person. I've been watching. He didn't do anything. The officer just told him to stop. A third. Are we allowed to film this? Someone else? We're in a public plaza. Yeah, we're allowed to film. And they keep filming. Phones up recording, uploading to social media platforms that will take this image and spread it across the internet faster than any official channel could hope to move. Paulson is aware of the phones. He's aware of the attention. And instead of de-escalating, instead of understanding that he's crossed a line that's being documented for the entire world to see, he seems to feed off the attention. He becomes more theatrical. He speaks louder. He makes his point more explicitly. This is what respect looks like, he says to the crowd. When someone challenges authority, when someone doesn't understand their place, this is what happens. They learn. They comply. Martinez has moved further away now. She's standing near the patrol car looking at her phone, deliberately not watching what's happening. In her notebook, though, she's writing. She's documenting the time, the location, the behavior. She's protecting herself. She's also, whether she fully understands it or not, building a case against her partner. James's legs hurt. The concrete is pressing into his kneecaps. His mind is compartmentalized. Part of him is managing the physical pain. Part of him is managing the emotional assault of being humiliated in public. Part of him is staying present and not letting his PTSD completely take over. He's been trained for stress. He's led men in combat. He's made decisions that affected lives. But nothing quite prepares you for the peculiar humiliation of being forced to your knees in public for no crime in front of strangers who are watching and feeling your shame as if it were their own. 3 minutes after James kneels, the first video goes live on social media. It's not edited. It's not narrated. It's just raw footage of a man on his knees and a police officer standing over him with a crowd in the background that's clearly uncomfortable. The caption reads, "Denver police officer harassing innocent man in downtown plaza. This is wrong." Within 10 minutes, it's been shared 200 times. Within 30 minutes, it's been shared 5,000 times. Within an hour, hashtags are trending locally. Denver police. What's happening? Justice now. News outlets are getting alerts. Social media monitoring algorithms are flagging the content as trending with high engagement. Local news channels are checking their phone lines, seeing if anyone's calling in about what's happening downtown. The narrative is forming, and it's forming in real time. Before police have issued a statement, before anyone with institutional authority has had a chance to shape the story, the internet has decided what happened. A cop abused power. A man was wronged. Justice should happen. Different people in the crowd are filming different parts of the interaction, capturing different angles. One video shows just the moment of kneeling, the most dramatic, the most powerful image. Another shows the broader context, the crowd, the plaza, the casual nature of the street fair before the moment of interruption. Another shows Paulson's face, his expression, the satisfaction he seems to be getting from this moment of dominance. Each video is slightly different, but they all tell the same story. Something wrong is happening. Sarah Chen has lived in Denver for 7 years. She moved here for a job, a position with a nonprofit that works with veteran communities. She was a chaplain in the Army, served alongside soldiers, listened to their fears and their faith and their doubts about what they were doing. She's at the plaza because she likes to support local businesses. She's looking at a vendor's jewelry when she hears the commotion. She hears Paulson's voice loud and commanding. She sees the crowd gathering. She walks closer, curious about what's happening, and then she sees him, James Patterson. She knows this face. She served with him in Afghanistan. She watched him lead soldiers. She watched him make decisions that saved lives. She was there when he got the Purple Heart, when the doctors told him he was lucky that the shrapnel missed his spine by millimeters. Her face goes cold. She recognizes what's happening, a police officer harassing someone, but she recognizes more than that. She recognizes that this officer is harassing someone who has already given something to this country, someone who has already bled for America. The injustice is compounded by the identity of the person experiencing it. Sarah doesn't approach immediately. She stands at the edge of the crowd watching, trying to understand how this happened. How is James Patterson, a decorated officer on his knees in a public plaza, being harassed by a police officer who clearly doesn't know who he is? She realizes that's the problem. The officer doesn't know. He's treating James like any other potential suspect, making snap judgments based on appearance and bearing. He has no idea that the man on his knees spent decades in the military, that this man's uniform carried more weight than Paulson's badge ever will. Sarah pulls out her phone. Not to film. She doesn't need another video. Instead, she opens her group text. It's a military family chat reserved for former service members and their close connections, a tight network of people who understand service, who understand what it means to give something to your country. She types, James Patterson is being arrested downtown, 15th and Market, military group chat. Need witnesses. Now. She hits send and watches as the message distributes to 47 people. Then she waits to see who responds. Martinez has moved to the side of the scene, but she's still watching. She's still noting everything that's happening. She's been a police officer for 6 years. She became a police officer because she believed in justice. She believed in protecting people. She believed in using authority responsibly. Watching Paulson perform for the crowd, watching him enjoy the domination of another human being, reminds her why she moved away from the patrol unit into detective work. She's tired of this. Tired of officers like Paulson who use the badge as an excuse to exercise power over people who can't fight back. She approaches Paulson again quietly. Derek, we need to finish this. It's been 20 minutes. Nothing's coming through on dispatch about casing reports or robberies. We're creating a scene. Paulson looks at her with something like hatred. You think you're better than me? You think you're above doing your job? I think we've done our job, Martinez says, keeping her voice calm and professional. We've questioned him. We've searched him. We've detained him. Legally, we need to either charge him or release him. I'll release him when I decide he's learned his lesson, Paulson says. Martinez feels something harden in her chest. She realizes in that moment that Paulson isn't interested in law. He's interested in power. He's interested in the feeling of dominating another person. And she's not going to be part of it anymore. Let him go, Derek, she says quietly. Or I'm filing a report with Internal Affairs about this entire interaction. It's a threat, but it's also a reality. Martinez has documentation. She has her partner's behavior on file. She has a crowd of witnesses. If Paulson pushes this further, Martinez will have no choice but to report what she's seeing. Paulson doesn't like being threatened by his own partner, but he also knows she's serious. He knows that Martinez has the credibility and the documentation to make good on her threat. He gestures for James to stand. You're free to go, Patterson. Paulson says, his voice hard. But we'll be watching you. James stands slowly. His legs are stiff. His knees hurt. There's a moment of dizziness as he rises as the blood redistributes through his body. He stands tall, though, despite the pain, despite the humiliation, despite the weight of 50 pairs of eyes on him. Paulson leans in slightly close enough that only James can hear. You come back to this plaza, and I'll arrest you for trespassing. You do anything that even looks suspicious, and I'll arrest you. I've got my eye on you. James doesn't respond. He doesn't argue. He doesn't say anything. He just nods slightly and turns to walk away. But as he does, something has shifted in the crowd. They're not just watching a man being released. They're witnessing someone who was wronged standing up and walking away with dignity. There's something powerful about that image. A woman in the crowd calls out, You didn't do anything wrong. That wasn't right. What he did wasn't right. James nods slightly at her, then continues walking, moving through the crowd that's already starting to murmur among themselves about what they just witnessed. The crowd doesn't leave. If anything, they linger, discussing what happened, comparing the videos they've already recorded, already uploading, already spreading across social media. Paulson stands with Martinez, realizing that he's just created exactly the kind of scene he wanted to prevent. Public attention, public scrutiny, the potential for consequences. Captain Michael Torres doesn't know James Patterson anymore. That's not quite right. He knows him the way you know someone you served with years ago, someone whose command you respected, someone whose decisions you remember, even if you haven't seen them in a decade. Torres received Sarah's text while he was at a coffee shop, about to head into the office to catch up on work. He read it once. He read it twice. Then he got in his car. He drives downtown, parking in a garage 6 blocks from the plaza. He moves quickly, not running, but walking with purpose. He's in civilian clothes, jeans, and a t-shirt, but his military bearing is unmistakable. People can sense authority the way animals sense predators. By the time he reaches the plaza, James is standing, just having been released by Paulson. Torres sees the crowd. Torres sees the police officers. Torres sees James. Torres's face goes hard. He's not the type to get angry quickly, but seeing a former commanding officer being harassed by someone in a police uniform, seeing the humiliation that's just occurred, triggers something in him. It's not just about James. It's about a violation of hierarchy, a violation of respect for service. Torres walks directly to Paulson. "That's Colonel Patterson," he says. His voice is quiet, but it carries weight. "You need to let him stand and apologize." Paulson stares at Torres like he's speaking a foreign language. "I don't know who you are, and I don't care who he is. Police business. Back up." "That's not police business," Torres says, keeping his voice level. "That's abuse of authority. I watched you fabricate a reason to detain an innocent man and humiliate him in public. I watched your partner step away from you because she knew what you were doing was wrong. And I'm telling you right now, this is over." Paulson's hand drifts toward his belt. It's an unconscious movement, a threat response. The crowd sees it. The tension instantly escalates. "You're going to need to step back," Paulson says. His voice has that edge that precedes violence. Torres doesn't step back. He stands his ground. Before Paulson can escalate further, another person emerges from the crowd. Major Sarah Chen, still active duty, uniform, casual, but carrying the bearing of someone who doesn't need a badge to demonstrate authority. She stands next to Torres. "Officer, I was here the entire time," she says. "I can tell you with certainty that this man did nothing to warrant detention. What you're doing is illegal." Then, coming from different directions, others arrive. Sergeant First Class David Williams, retired. Lieutenant Junior Grade Amanda Foster, Navy. More military personnel, all responding to Sarah's alert, all converging on the plaza like they'd coordinated it, even though it was completely organic. The crowd has grown to over 100 people now. The police department is getting phone calls. News outlets are being alerted. The scene is no longer a contained interaction between one officer and one civilian. It's becoming a public event. It's becoming a moment that the city will have to address. Each military person who arrives looks at James, recognizes the same thing. One of their own has been wronged, and they stand. Not aggressively, not threateningly, just standing. Present, witnessing. Making it clear that they see what happened, they understand what happened, and they're not going to pretend it was legitimate. Paulson realizes he's outnumbered. He realizes that his moment of dominance has turned into a moment of isolation. Even Martinez is no longer standing beside him. She's standing to the side, documenting everything, already writing down names and details that will become evidence. Torres steps closer to Paulson. "Officer, I understand you have a job. I respect that. But what you're doing right now is crossing a line. This man has committed no crime. You have no basis to detain him. You have no basis to humiliate him. And you're doing it in front of 100 witnesses while everyone films." Paulson looks around. Torres is right. Phones are out everywhere. The moment is being captured from every angle. Paulson's behavior is being documented. He was suspicious, Paulson says. He still is. He's acting like he's above the law. No, Torres says quietly. He's acting like someone who knows the law better than you do. And he's right. For the first time, Paulson realizes he's not winning this. He's not even holding his ground. He's losing. The crowd has sided with James. His own partner has sided against him. And now a group of military personnel people who carry their own authority through years of service are standing against him. It's a moment of realization. It's a moment where Paulson understands that his power is limited. His badge doesn't mean what he thought it meant. His authority is being questioned and challenged and ultimately found wanting. "You're all interfering with police business," Paulson says. But his voice is weaker now. The threat has gone out of it. "There is no police business," Torres says. "Release him or charge him. Those are your only options." Paulson looks at Martinez. He's hoping for support from his partner. Instead, she just looks away, makes a note in her book, and stays silent. "Fine," Paulson says finally. "You're free to go, Patterson. You're free to leave." But before James can move, before he can step away from this moment and back into his normal life, something else happens. Sarah Chen steps forward. She's not approaching Paulson. She's approaching James. She raises her right arm slowly, deliberately. She brings her arm up, palm open, fingers straight. She salutes. It's a gesture that many in the crowd won't understand. But everyone with military service, everyone who has stood at attention, everyone who has worn a uniform, everyone who has given something to their country, they understand immediately. The salute means, you have honor, you deserve respect. You have given something that cannot be measured in the currency of ordinary life, and I recognize that. Torres sees what Sarah is doing. He raises his arm. He salutes. Williams salutes. Foster salutes. And then something shifts. An elderly man in the crowd, 70-something, with the bearing of someone who served decades ago, stands at attention. He brings his arm up. He salutes. His wife stands beside him. She doesn't know military protocol. She doesn't know the meaning behind the gesture. But she understands what it means. Something important is happening. Someone is being honored. She raises her arm and salutes. Her husband salutes the moment, salutes this man on his knees who is no longer on his knees. A teenager who's never served, who's never worn a uniform, who doesn't fully understand military hierarchy, but understands that something meaningful is occurring. She raises her arm and salutes. A woman pushing a stroller. A man in business casual. A teenager with a green mohawk. They all raise their arms. The salute spreads across the plaza like water finding cracks in concrete. It's organic. It's not organized or choreographed or forced. It's people recognizing something sacred in this moment, something beyond the ordinary, something that demands to be honored. There are 50 people saluting now, then 80, then over 100. And it's silent. No cheering, no chanting, just the quiet, powerful gesture of recognition. Just human beings saying without words that this man, this James Patterson, deserves respect, that what happened to him was wrong, that his service meant something. Paulson stands frozen. He realizes in this moment what he's done. He hasn't just harassed an innocent man. He's harassed a decorated veteran. He's harassed someone whose service deserves respect. He's harassed someone whose community is prepared to stand for him. The crowd isn't angry in a violent way. They're not screaming or threatening. They're just standing. But that standing, that simple, powerful gesture of solidarity is more devastating to Paulson than any words could be. He's lost. Not just this moment. Everything. His authority means nothing in the presence of honor. His badge means nothing when someone else has already worn something more significant. James stands in the center of this moment, surrounded by salutes. His eyes are closed for a moment. When he opens them, there are tears on his cheeks. It's not the tears of someone broken. It's the tears of someone who has been treated unjustly and has just been recognized for what he is. Someone who spent 20 years giving. Someone who came home expecting nothing and has just been given something profound. The recognition of his community. The salutes continue. They're coming from every direction now. From people at the edges of the plaza who didn't see the initial interaction but who sense that something important is happening and want to be part of it. From people who understand military service and honor. From people who don't understand military service but understand human dignity. There's a woman who was buying jewelry when this started and she's saluting and she's crying. There's a father with his son both saluting and the father is explaining something quietly to his son. Something about what it means when your country honors you. There's a teenager filming it all. Tears streaming down her face, and she keeps filming even as she salutes, wanting to capture this moment for others who aren't here. Over 150 people are standing and saluting now. The plaza has become something other than a street fair. It's become a monument. It's become a public recognition of something that society often forgets. That service matters. Paulson is watching. His face shows the moment he understands, really understands, that he's not going to recover from this. That his career, his standing, his future as a police officer is effectively over in this moment. Not because of a trial or an investigation yet, but because in front of 100 witnesses he has been revealed as someone who doesn't understand honor, who has abused power, who has been rejected by his community. Martinez is still writing. She's documenting the names she can see. She's recording the time. She's building the official record of what happened. James stands tall in the center of this moment. He doesn't look happy. He looks transformed. He looks like someone who was wronged and then lifted up by the recognition of something that goes beyond the ordinary structures of authority. By 9:17 a.m., the first major news outlet has picked up the story. By 9:30 a.m., it's trending nationally on social media. By 10 a.m., cable news stations are preempting their regular programming to cover what's happening in Denver. The images are striking. A man surrounded by people standing and saluting, a police officer standing alone, a crowd that has organized itself into a gesture of solidarity. Colonel Patterson is trending on Twitter. Denver Salute is trending on Facebook. Justice for James is trending across multiple platforms. The narrative is already forming. Decorated veteran forced to kneel by Denver police. Community responds with solidarity. News outlets are trying to get statements from the Denver Police Department. The police commissioner is trying to understand what happened. Social media is already calling for Paulson's termination. The mayor's office is getting flooded with phone calls. Paulson realizes that this moment, this single moment where he decided to exert power over an innocent man, is now national news. His face is going to be associated with abuse of authority. His name is going to be searched online, and the first results will be about what he did today. He's finished. He doesn't know it consciously yet, but on some level he understands. His career as a police officer is over. The salute continues for another minute. Then people gradually lower their arms. The gesture has said what it needed to say. The moment has served its purpose. James stands tall, surrounded by people who came to his defense, who recognized his service, who stood for him in a way that goes beyond law enforcement or police authority. The crowd begins to disperse, but not before approaching James, giving him their contact information, telling him that they stand with him, that what happened was wrong, that they're available if he needs them. The story is no longer about what happened in the first few minutes of this interaction. It's about what happened after. It's about a community standing together. It's about the power of recognition and solidarity. By 11 a.m., Police Commissioner William Hayes is standing in front of cameras. He looks uncomfortable. He knows that whatever he says in the next few minutes is going to define how this incident is perceived. The Denver Police Department takes all allegations of misconduct seriously, he says, reading from notes that were hastily prepared. We are immediately opening a formal investigation into Officer Paulson's conduct during the interaction that occurred this morning at the plaza downtown, a reporter calls out. Commissioner, was Officer Paulson justified in detaining Colonel Patterson? Hayes hesitates. This is the moment where he could back up his officer. This is the moment where he could assert that the police have the right to stop and question anyone. This is the moment where he could defend the badge. Instead, he says, "That's what the investigation will determine." It's a non-answer that sounds like an admission of guilt. Internal Affairs is notified. Detective Lisa Rodriguez is assigned to the case. She watches the video. She reads the witness statements. She speaks to Martinez, who provides detailed documentation of everything that occurred. Rodriguez sees immediately what happened. An officer, acting without probable cause, fabricated a reason to detain an innocent man, humiliated him in public, and created exactly the kind of incident that damages public trust in police authority. The investigation is going to be straightforward. The evidence is overwhelming. Paulson arrives at the station after the scene in the plaza. He's hoping his colleagues will support him. He's hoping that the police culture will recognize that he was just doing his job, that his fellow officers will defend him. Instead, he finds silence. Officers won't look at him. They'll work with him, but they won't look him in the eye. There's a distance that's been created, a separation between Paulson and the department that went beyond just what he did to James. His union rep calls him. "Derek, don't say anything. Don't file any reports. Don't communicate with anyone about what happened without a lawyer present." Paulson realizes that even his own union, the organization supposed to protect him, is evaluating whether he's worth protecting. He attempts to write a report justifying his actions. He writes, "Suspect matched description of individual casing shops. Detention was lawful. Pat-down was according to protocol." But the report contradicts the evidence. There's video showing him fabricating the robbery report. There's Martinez's testimony confirming that no casing report came through dispatch. There are witness statements from the 50 people who were there. Paulson's defense is crumbling before any formal proceedings even begin. 3 days after the incident in the plaza, James sits across from Detective Rodriguez in an interview room. The room is neutral. Gray walls, a table, chairs. It's designed to be calming, but it's inherently intimidating. Rodriguez has the video ready. She has Martinez's statement. She has 50-plus witness accounts. "Colonel Patterson, I want you to tell me in your own words what happened on Saturday morning." James recounts the event. He's calm. He's factual. He doesn't embellish. He doesn't seek sympathy. He simply tells what occurred. Rodriguez listens. She's a veteran herself. She understands the weight of military service. She understands what it means for someone to come home expecting to be safe and to encounter abuse instead. "I understand this must be frustrating," Rodriguez says when James finishes. "It's not frustrating," James says quietly. "It's disappointing. I spent 20 years defending this country. I've led men in combat. I've made decisions that determined who lived and who died. I came home expecting to be treated with some basic dignity. Officer Paulson didn't know who you were," Rodriguez says. "I know," James says. "That's part of the problem. But also, it shouldn't matter. Whether I was a decorated officer or a regular citizen, I shouldn't have been treated that way. I didn't do anything wrong." Rodriguez makes notes. She's going to recommend prosecution. "What do you want to happen?" Rodriguez asks. James considers this. He could demand Paulson's head. He could push for the maximum possible penalty. He could seek revenge. Instead, he says, "I want accountability. I want a system that doesn't allow people like Officer Paulson to abuse power without consequences. I want the next person who encounters a police officer to have better protection than I did. Beyond that, I'm not interested in revenge." Rodriguez nods. This is a man who has thought about what happened, who has processed it, who wants something meaningful to come from it. "Thank you for your time," Rodriguez says. As Rodriguez digs deeper into Paulson's history, she discovers something that makes the James Patterson case even more damning. It's not an isolated incident. She finds files on 6 other cases where Paulson was the primary officer and where charges were eventually dismissed due to lack of probable cause. In 3 cases, the individuals sued the police department. In 2 of those cases, settlements were reached. There's a woman who was detained without cause. There's a teenager who was arrested for disorderly conduct when he questioned why he was being stopped. There's a man who was charged with battery, but the charges were dropped when Martinez testified that Paulson had fabricated the incident. The pattern is clear. Paulson uses his badge as a tool to dominate people, typically people who don't immediately submit to authority. Each of these cases involved people who might not have the resources or the visibility to fight back. But now, with James Patterson's case gaining national attention, they feel empowered to come forward. One by one, they reach out to Rodriguez. One by one, they provide statements about their interactions with Paulson. One by one, they become part of a larger narrative of abuse. During a formal internal affairs interview, the investigation closes in on Paulson. Rodriguez presents the evidence. She shows the video. She plays Martinez's recorded statement. She presents the witness testimony. Officer Paulson, the evidence suggests that you fabricated a reason to detain Colonel Patterson. Is that accurate? Paulson sits in silence for a long moment. His lawyer has advised him not to speak. His lawyer has advised him that his best strategy is to invoke his right to remain silent and let the evidence speak for itself. But something breaks in Paulson. Maybe it's the weight of what he's done. Maybe it's the realization that he's not going to survive this, that no amount of silence is going to change the outcome. "Yes," Paulson says finally. "I did." His lawyer puts his head in his hands. "I didn't have a specific reason to stop him." Paulson continues. "I just didn't like the way he looked at me, the way he carried himself, like he didn't think I had authority." "So you fabricated a robbery report," Rodriguez says. "Yes. And you detained him for 15 minutes without probable cause." "Yes. And you ordered him to kneel, which is not a lawful command for detaining someone." "Yes." Paulson's confession is like watching a man collapse under the weight of his own actions. Each yes is a piece of his defense falling away. Why, Rodriguez asks. "Because I need people to respect the badge," Paulson says. "I need them to understand that I have authority, that what I say matters." Rodriguez looks at this man, angry, broken, desperate for recognition, and she sees someone who was never fit for the authority he was given, someone who wanted the power without understanding the responsibility that comes with it. Rodriguez compiles her report. It's thorough. It's damning. She recommends termination of employment with the Denver Police Department, no severance, no possibility of resignation with dignity, full termination. She also recommends criminal charges: abuse of authority, filing false reports, civil rights violation. She forwards her recommendation to the district attorney's office. D. Catherine Morales reviews the case. It's clear-cut. There's video evidence. There's a confession. There are multiple witnesses. There are prior incidents showing a pattern of behavior. Morales decides to prosecute. Paulson receives notice that he's being charged with 3 felonies. His career is effectively over. His freedom is in jeopardy. His future is uncertain. For the first time, the legal machinery that he's used against others is being turned on him. 6 weeks later, Paulson sits in a courtroom in front of a jury. His lawyer has prepared a defense, but the defense is weak. There's video. There's a confession. There's overwhelming evidence. The prosecution presents its case methodically. They show the video. They call Martinez to testify. She describes what happened, her discomfort with Paulson's behavior, her documentation of the event. Did Officer Paulson ever indicate what crime Colonel Patterson had committed, the prosecutor asks. No, Martinez says. He said he had a look about him, that's all. Did any casing reports come through dispatch that morning? No, I monitored dispatch. There were no reports of anyone casing shops. Martinez's testimony is clear and damaging. She's not attacking her former partner out of malice. She's simply telling the truth. The prosecution calls James to testify. He describes the morning, his walk, being stopped, the pat-down, the forced kneeling. He speaks clearly without anger, without seeking sympathy. He simply describes what happened. Did you commit any crime, the prosecutor asks? No. Did Officer Paulson ever tell you what crime you were suspected of? He said I was casing shops for a robbery, but that wasn't true. James steps down from the stand. The jury has seen him. They've heard his account. They understand that an innocent man was treated unjustly. Paulson's lawyer advises against him taking the stand. It's a risky move, but Paulson believes he can explain himself. He believes he can make the jury understand why he did what he did. He takes the stand. The prosecutor begins with simple questions. Officer Paulson, why did you stop Colonel Patterson? I thought he matched the description of a suspect. What was that description? Paulson hesitates. There was no description. There was no actual case. He looked suspicious. How did he look suspicious? He was walking alone. He wasn't responding to me the way I expected, by not being afraid of you. Paulson's lawyer objects, but the damage is already done. The jury sees a man who's trying to justify abuse of power by claiming that his victim didn't show fear quickly enough. The prosecutor continues. Officer Paulson, did you file a report about casing behavior at the plaza? Yes. Did you actually receive such a report from another officer or from dispatch? Paulson knows the answer. He knows the truth. He knows the video shows him fabricating the claim. I wrote the report based on what I observed. What you observed was a man walking. Is that correct? A man walking with a suspicious bearing, yes. A bearing that you found threatening because he didn't immediately show fear when you approached him. Paulson's lawyer objects again, but the point has been made. The jury understands what's happening. They understand that this officer fabricated a reason to stop and humiliate an innocent man because that man didn't show immediate deference to authority. Paulson becomes emotional on the stand. He becomes angry. He starts talking about how police are disrespected, how authority has been eroded, how people like James Patterson military people don't understand that civilian police authority is different. You served in the military, the prosecutor asks. No. So you don't have experience serving under a chain of command that's designed to hold officers accountable for abuse of power. Objection, Paulson's lawyer says. Sustained, the judge says. But again, the point has been made. Paulson lacks the discipline and training that comes from military service. He lacks the understanding of how authority should be exercised responsibly. Paulson steps down from the stand and his case has effectively collapsed. The jury deliberates for 4 hours. The courtroom is quiet as they return. No one speaks. The only sound is their footsteps as they file back into the jury box. Has the jury reached a verdict, the judge asks. We have your honor, the foreman says. On the charge of abuse of authority, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of filing false reports, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of civil rights violation, how do you find? Guilty. Guilty on all counts. James is present at the courtroom. He listens to each guilty verdict. He doesn't smile. He doesn't show satisfaction. He looks relieved, but not happy. This isn't a victory that brings joy. It's an outcome that brings the possibility of closure. Paulson's face shows the moment he understands that this is real, that his career is over, that prison is coming. The sentencing hearing takes place 3 weeks later. The judge considers the evidence, the crime, the impact on James, the pattern of behavior Paulson has exhibited. Officer Paulson, you were trusted with authority that extends to the public. You violated that trust. You violated the rights of an innocent man. You did so in a way that was calculated to humiliate him. You did so in front of the public, which undermines public trust in the institutions you represent. And you attempted to cover up your actions through false reports. The judge pauses. I sentence you to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You are also ordered to pay restitution to James Patterson in the amount of $50,000. Additionally, you are permanently barred from holding any position in law enforcement. 18 months. 5 years of probation. A permanent bar from law enforcement, or from law. The sentence is substantial but measured. It's not excessive. It's not revenge. It's accountability proportional to the crime. Paulson hears the sentence. He understands that his life has fundamentally changed, that he's going to prison, that he'll never work as a police officer again. The consequences come quickly. Paulson's wife, who had already left him, finalizes the divorce. She doesn't want him to have shared custody anymore. She doesn't want him near her children at all. The judge agrees. Paulson's friends from the police department don't return his calls. His reputation in the department is radioactive. Every officer who worked with him is now tainted by association. No one wants to defend him. No one wants to be seen supporting him. News outlets reach out for interviews. Paulson's lawyer advises him to decline. Paulson is going to be associated for the rest of his life with abuse of power. His name, when searched online, will pull up articles about what he did. His story will be taught in police academies as a cautionary tale about what not to do. The fall is complete, not through destruction or violence, but through the machinery of accountability, through the system working the way it's supposed to work. Paulson reports to federal prison in 3 months. Until then, he's on house arrest, waiting for his life to change into something he never imagined it would become. James is offered the restitution that the judge awarded him, $50,000. It's substantial money. For someone working ordinary jobs and trying to rebuild his life after military service, it's real help. James accepts it. Then he donates it. He contacts the Colorado Veterans Legal Defense Fund, an organization that provides legal services to veterans who can't afford expensive lawyers. He donates the full $50,000 to their operations. The organization contacts him stunned. "Sir, are you sure? This could help you significantly." "I know," James says, "but it'll help other people more. Other veterans who get caught in situations they shouldn't be in. Other people who need legal representation but don't have the resources. Use it for that." The story gets picked up by local news. It gets shared on social media. People who were already supporting James, people who stood and saluted him in the plaza, share it again. The narrative becomes complete. A man who was wronged, who received justice, who then used that justice to help others. A man who transformed his own injustice into something that could serve his broader community. James Patterson is no longer just a victim of police abuse. He's become a symbol of something larger, a symbol of grace in the face of injustice, a symbol of service extending beyond the military, a symbol of using power when you obtain it to serve others. 2 months after Paulson's sentencing, Denver Police Commissioner William Hayes contacts James. "We're creating a new position," Hayes says, "Director of Veteran Integration. Your job would be to help us understand military culture, to help officers understand what it means when someone has served, to prevent situations like what happened to you from happening again." James's first instinct is to decline. He doesn't want to be a public figure. He doesn't want to be known as that guy who got knelt on by a cop. He doesn't want his life defined by a single moment of humiliation. But then he considers what he could do in that role. He could train officers. He could build bridges between the military and civilian law enforcement. He could help prevent other James Pattersons from experiencing what he experienced. "I'll take the position," he says. He begins training police officers on military culture, on the psychological impacts of military service, on how to interact with veterans in ways that are respectful and understanding. He teaches officers about PTSD, about hypervigilance, about the difference between military hierarchy and civilian authority. It's not his old job, but it's a job that matters. It's work that has meaning. James's case becomes known nationally as the Patterson incident. Law schools teach it in civil rights courses. Police academies teach it as a cautionary tale about the abuse of authority and its consequences. News outlets reference it when discussing police accountability. Other police departments begin implementing reforms based on what was learned from James's case. Body cameras become more common. De-escalation training becomes standard. Civilian oversight boards are established in more jurisdictions. Colorado passes what becomes known as the Patterson Act, requiring civilian oversight of police investigations into alleged misconduct. 31 other states follow suit, implementing their own versions of the law. One man's humiliation became a catalyst for broader change. Not complete change. The problems with police accountability aren't solved by one case, but measurably, tangibly, things improve. Veterans organizations reach out to James, asking him to speak at their events. Military schools request his participation in training. The story of what happened to him and how he responded to it becomes an example for others. September 15th. 1 year after the incident in the plaza, there's a gathering at the same location. Military personnel come from across Colorado. They wear uniforms or casual clothes that mark them as military. Certain hats, certain insignias, certain bearing. They come to honor James, but also to honor what happened in that moment when a community stood together. Civil rights advocates attend. News outlets cover the anniversary. James is asked to speak. He stands in the plaza in the exact spot where he was kneeling a year ago. A year ago, I was treated unjustly. I was harassed, humiliated, forced to my knees for no crime. It was one of the worst moments of my life. He pauses. But what happened after what you all did, standing together, recognizing that service means something, that honor is real? That was one of the best moments of my life. You reminded me that I'm not alone. You reminded me that the country I defended still values that service. He looks out at the crowd, to the people who stood and saluted. Thank you. To the military community that showed up. Thank you. To the police officers who are trying to do better, to do right. Thank you. And to everyone watching this. Remember that standing with people who are treated unjustly isn't optional. It's part of what makes us human. The crowd is silent. There's no applause. There's just the weight of recognition and the understanding that something meaningful has been marked in this moment. Derek Paulson is serving his 18-month sentence at a federal prison in Colorado. He's isolated. He's recognized by other inmates. He's dealing with the consequences of his actions every single day. But the story isn't about his punishment. The story is about what comes after. James continues his work with the police department. Every month, he trains new officers. Every month, he teaches them about the people they'll encounter, about the weight of military service, about the responsibility that comes with authority. The Veterans Legal Fund that James donated to has helped 37 cases in the past year. 37 veterans who needed legal defense and were able to receive it because James chose to use his restitution to help others. The Patterson Act is being discussed in Congress. Federal legislation is being considered that would extend the protections it provides to more jurisdictions. One incident properly responded to, properly prosecuted, properly learned from, has the potential to change systems. It's a quiet morning a week before the 1-year anniversary. James is back at the same plaza, alone. He's standing where he was forced to kneel, but he's standing tall. His shoulders are back. His head is high. He's not smiling. He's not celebrating. He's just standing. There's weight in that standing. There's history in that standing. There's the weight of what he went through, the injustice he experienced, the community that stood for him, the work he's done since, to prevent others from experiencing the same thing. He closes his eyes and breathes in the morning air. His service is continuing, not in a uniform, not in a hierarchy with clear command structures, but in a different kind of service. Service to the community, service to preventing injustice, service to honoring what service means. When he opens his eyes, he's at peace. Not because the problem is solved, not because police accountability is perfect, not because the injustice he experienced has been erased, but because he took something wrong and transformed it into something that serves others, and that's enough. If you've watched a situation that felt unjust, that felt wrong, that felt like abuse of authority or harm being done, stand. Stand like the crowd in Denver stood. Stand like people who understand that their voice, their presence, their willingness to witness and recognize injustice matters. Service isn't just military. Service isn't just defined by a uniform or a career. Service is about showing up for other people. Service is about standing when it matters. Service is about using your voice and your presence to say, "This isn't right. And I see it. And I care." James Patterson spent 20 years in military service. He spent another year and beyond in a different kind of service. He served his community by refusing to accept injustice silently, by allowing his story to become a story of change. The Denver Police Department is better because of what happened. The conversation about accountability is better because of what happened. The recognition of veteran service is better because of what happened. One moment, one choice to stand, one community choosing to recognize something that matters. That's what changes things. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about courage, justice, and the power of community standing together.